You're listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast, hosted by Zach Bechtold and Matt Franks. If you'd like to learn more about the Bearded Theologians, you can go online at beardedtheologians.com, where we have past podcasts, blogs, and a couple items for sale. So check us out, beardedtheologians.com. Thank you for listening, and enjoy this week's show. You're listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast, hosted by Matt Franks
and Zach Bechtold. And today we have a very special guest and friend of the podcast and just wonderful overall human being, one of my favorite people on this planet, Bishop Karen Oliveto. Bishop Karen, thank you for being on with us.
Great. Thanks for having me back. Always enjoy our conversations.
Yeah. Why don't you real quick remind our listeners, who you are, where you're from, what you do, in case they don't know who a bishop is or what you do.
Great. My name is Karen Oliveto. I'm United Methodist Bishop over the Mountain Sky Conference, which is 460,000 square miles over 4 states plus one, we say, Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, Utah, and one church in Salmon, Idaho. And as bishop, I shepherd the area. I make sure that clergy have the tools and skills they need and are matched with churches that have the needs for the skills of the pastors so that everyone can thrive in ministry and in their discipleship.
Wonderful. That's, not a big deal, right?
No.
Just a little job. Well, being one of your pastors in the conference, I can say firsthand, you do a beautiful job of that, of matching pastors and churches and hearing everyone involved. And I think it's a testament to how large our geography is to have those big ears and have the ability to do that, which is challenging.
Yeah. I don't know how to lead from an office, right? I mean, as a pastor, I came right from local church pastoring into the episcopacy. And as a pastor, we know we do our best work when we are where people are, when we are seeing what their daily lives are like, their challenges. And I've taken that into what I do as a bishop. I'm on the road all but about 60 days a year, so that I can truly know our churches, know the laity and their yearnings, hear about our clergy and the challenges they face, as well as the passions that they have for ministry. So, I feel very blessed. I love this area. I love the people I get to work with. I love the opportunities for ministry in our region.
Bishop, one of the things that I noticed that you all do really well is utilize technology. And would you mind talking a little bit about that? Because I've been trying to convince people in Oklahoma that we can utilize technology just as well as the people in your annual conference. Would you mind just sharing a little bit about that?
Sure. When you cover 460,000 square miles over a variety of geographic terrain, it becomes really important to utilize technology. However, that's not the only thing we can rely on. So we use it to bring together people from across the area for webinars, for discussions, for information. But we know that there are communities in our region that don't have an internet infrastructure, who don't have access to emails, who don't have even smartphones. Smartphones in many parts of our area are just used for emergencies when your car goes off the road in a storm. So we recognize we need multiple avenues of technology. But I do think that it is such an important tool, especially as we seek to meet the needs and yearnings of generations that are younger than boomers. So, yeah, very important.
Certainly, and that is definitely something that we have had the value of here, at least for myself and the work that I get to do with the conference office, and but even this right here, having these conversations and building these relationships, there is something valuable in the media there when you look at our geographical area. But there's also a huge value in, like you say, getting out and being in our churches and being in these spaces, places, and getting to know people that way too. There's a true connectedness there when we put those two together.
Right. And it's been especially challenging for this annual conference because up until a year and a half ago, we were two separate conferences. There had been a lot of mutual sharing. There had been a lot of permeable boundaries, and there had been a lot of discussion about coming together, but it's really been two different cultures trying to create a new culture. And so technology has helped us build that new culture.
Right. It has. And we kick off a Lenten devotional series. And so, like you say, it goes far beyond meetings and webinars and into the spiritual life as well, which is really cool.
So we do digital devotions all during Lent. Actually, we're going to take it further than Easter due to this thing called General Conference coming up, a little meeting in May. But what it is every morning, Monday through Friday at 6:30 in the morning, someone in the conference leads a 20-minute devotion. You could be still in bed. I love seeing people's, tucked up under their covers. I don't know if they realize they can actually turn off their cameras, but we see people at the gym. We see people in their cars. We see, and it really is a way for us to be connected as we start our day in the morning. And it's been really a great grounding time for us all.
Yeah.
So go to the website, mountainsky.com, and you can be a part of it. The login information will be there. So it starts on Ash Wednesday, and we'll move for several weeks.
And I think that's what impresses me the most is, of course, we see familiar faces in these within the conference, but I think what caught my attention was how many people from outside of our conference are coming to be a part of these things, truly filling a spiritual and just devotional need in the life of the church broadly, for folks across the country and across the world, I suppose.
And I'm seeing that in so much in our webinars, I try to take an annual pilgrimage trip with the conference, and we had people go to the Holy Lands with us that were not from our conference. This year, of taking a group to do the Wesleyan Heritage Tour, we have people from outside the conference. I think that's the best of our connectionalism, right? That we can share the resources, share the fellowship, and share the deep spiritual work we have to do together.
Well, and I think in light of what's going on in the greater denomination, showing that connectionalism, showing that we can get together and be the body of Christ and be the church in ways that aren't what's in the news currently, is such a valuable witness to this world.
Yeah, I agree.
We need more of that.
Well, and that's actually my concern. If we want to, I know you talked about possibly hitting with the protocol. That's my concern actually with General Conference. Do I think that some kind of split is inevitable at this point? I hate to say it. I think it is. Does it break my heart? Yes. I think in a time when the world is becoming increasingly polarized, at a time when we're building more walls and bridges between one another, for us as the body of Christ to say there's some people we can't live with, we can't be church with, and so we need to split, it diminishes our witness, I think. And imagine if we could figure a way to do that, how much healing we can bring to a broken world if we could find a way to live together.
Right. Well, and those are the conversations that I've had with non-Methodists in my communities. Any time that I step into a public place and people have a moment, hey, what's going on? And have to have really, really hard, really fast conversations with folks, because it's usually in passing of, there's a lot to unpack here, but here's kind of what's going on, and it's hard. It's sad to see people say, no, we can't do this anymore because of whatever. And how do we begin to heal and move in grace from that?
How do we move in grace? I think, part of the thing we hear, I've heard a lot of people say is, why is this getting so much press? Why is the protocol getting so much press? It's been covered on every major network. Well, so was General Conference 2019. I mean, it made every front page, or close to front page, not only of major news outlets, but also of local. And I think we in the church have forgotten that there is a social witness the world is hungry for. And so we feel we are no longer in the public square, but in fact, the public square, people in the public square are yearning for our voice, for the values we bring to that, for the moral compass that we have to offer. And I think that's why the United Methodist Church is in the news so much. And so what's the lesson for pastors, for laity, about what we're being called to in this moment? How can we truly return to the public square? John Wesley, we're United Methodists. John Wesley, talked about personal piety and social holiness. You can't have one without the other. And so how do we, with our deep, utilizing the means of grace to go deeply into connecting with God, that requires us to connect with others and to ensure the well-being of others. And I think this whole thing is showing us that, especially in U.S. society, there is a hunger for us to offer that.
That's what I found interesting. A week ago, the local newspaper came into my office and interviewed me about our podcast and bar church that I'm doing. And so when the article aired, I was a little bit nervous because we really hadn't fleshed out bar church with the whole congregation, just with people who that's where they're at. And so I was a little bit nervous about what the feedback would be. And someone one of my church members had texted me and said, well, at least this is a positive thing and not something negative about what's happening within our denomination. And I said, it was really nice to do something a little bit different and not have to feel like I'm trying to unpack something for a secular world when they see what's going on. And it's hard to if you're an outsider, it's hard to understand the complexities of the situation. I mean, church folk, even, good rooted Methodists have a hard time understanding the complexities of the situation, let alone, the outside world. But then if we can share with how we're sharing the good news to the world and how we're loving on people and caring for people, I think that can truly overcome the mess that we have going on right now in our denomination.
Amen. Amen.
Bishop, I'm going to ask you. I'm going to ask you maybe a hard question. Where are you finding hope these days?
Oh, well, I'm going to start really with a deeply personal hope. I had my call to ministry when I was 11 years old. I came out in seminary, but the restrictions against LGBT people weren't there. So I was ordained a deacon in 1982. In 1984, the greater restrictions against LGBTQ clergy went into effect. And I really had to wrestle with, am I still called to the United Methodist Church? My call remained the same, but the church rules had changed on me. And but I knew God still called me to this institution. So for 36 years, I have woken up every morning wondering, is this the day someone says something that causes me to lose my ministry and my vocation? 36 years every single day. Well, the end of December was coming and I didn't know. I mean, you learn when you are marginalized by an institution, you learn how to walk through that institution. You have to know how to use its rules really well. And suddenly the rules had changed so much with the traditionalist plan, I didn't know how to live in it anymore. And it sent me into quite a serious depression because I still felt called to this ministry, but no longer knew how to do it and have authenticity and integrity. And so really was thinking I need to retire at the beginning of January. And having the Western jurisdiction bishops say, we will not process complaints. But then getting a phone call from the Council of Bishops, all the bishops around the world were on a call talking about the protocol and the various agreements of the protocol, including a moratorium on complaints and trials. I'm living for the first time in 36 years without feeling like there's a noose around my neck. And it has allowed me tremendous hope, but also an ability to think more long-term about ministry than I've ever been able to do before. And so that's like the greatest hope I hold right now. I just have to share that. That is like, I can't tell you what a difference it's made in my life.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And what a place to find hope. And like you say, for going so long with not knowing, if you're going to wake up and have that phone call, have that conversation, have that, and especially in the last year, knowing that January 1 is coming, to have that, oh geez, I don't even know what to call it. Hope, that hope to move forward and go, here we are. Here's a new day. And wow, thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
And we don't know what will happen in May.
Of course, right?
To have a taste of this hope, to have a taste of this freedom, this is what God intends for all people. And so what do I need to do to ensure that everyone, no matter, we're not just talking sexual orientation or gender identity, but we're talking race, we're talking class, we're talking geographic location. How can we make sure everyone can walk into the light of the freedom that Christ offers us?
Absolutely. And that's something that I've served in a handful of conferences across the denomination, and being in this one the last 2.5 years, that is something that the attention paid to where you are. Hey, where you are, do that ministry. Please go and be with your people. And what's coming out of, Denver or, Billings or, Cheyenne, it doesn't matter. It's what's going on in your area and what your people need, and how can you bring them that same hope, that they know that they're welcome at the table, that they know that they're welcome in the space, and they know that they're welcome in the arms of God like everyone else is. That has given me such great hope, because I certainly came to this conference hopeless for a lot of different reasons. But the same kind of idea around my call of, I don't know that I can do this anywhere else. I need to go where I can truly be who I am, and who God's calling me to be as a pastor and as a person.
Well, and isn't that what, we get so hung up as clergy in our role that we forget to bring what makes that role powerful is the self we bring into it. Mm-hmm. And so we try to let the role mold us, instead of saying, no, God called me because of me. Mm-hmm. And when I bring the fullness of me into it, it also gives permission to people to bring the fullness of themselves. And that's what God wants of us, is to be our fully created self.
Absolutely. And I find great hope in that, moving forward, no matter what happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and that's one of the things I find inspiring about you, Bishop, is that seeing you being with the people, and not just being centrally located in one place. That provides a sense of comfort and hope, even for someone who's not in your annual conference. Seeing a bishop actually engaging people, that's the Methodism I hope we become. And whatever it may shake out in May, my prayer is that we continue to do that and go where the people are and love and care for them and be with them, and like seeing you do it, and then inspiring your conference to do that, and seeing it in various different ways, has definitely been hopeful. And at least, especially in times like this, when it seems like, it's a nice gray day here in Oklahoma for the weather, because it's getting ready to do something. It's not going to snow because it never snows in Tahlequah. But it's kind of how it feels right now, in the sense of the church, is like we're in a gray day, and that we know that light's coming, and that we just have to hold on. And that that light will shine through, kind of like what it's doing in Zach's picture right now with this his deal.
Well, yeah, and it's funny. There's a joke that I share with my episcopacy committee. You didn't really need to have an Episcopal residence. You really need an Episcopal RV. And there's a member who's taken me seriously. So look forward to the Bishop Mobile. But the other thing, there is that, we clergy need to know how to join a community. And some of us don't know how to do that. I know I had to learn how to do that. I mean, I go back and, I would love to do my first appointment over again. Those were such beautiful people, and they deserve so much more than I knew how to do at that point. But they were so patient and loved me, and I'm so grateful for them. But we don't know how to join. We don't know how. Where do we go where people meet outside of church? People have meaningful relationships outside of church. We need to be there. We need to be there to listen, to learn, to love there. So how do we bring the good news to where people are? And it is good news. The other thing is, I don't know how to be a dour Christian, and there's a lot of dour Christians. This love that God pours into our lives and into the world is to be celebrated and to live into fully, with joy, and that means truly enjoying one another. And I enjoy the clergy and laity of the Mountain Sky Conference. I enjoy spending time with them. I enjoy dreaming together and trying to think, where is God calling us at this moment to share life with others?
No, I think that's what a important conversation, especially this time of year with appointment season coming up, or in the midst of it. In knowing, I answer the question all the time in all three of my communities. I bet once a week, Pastor, are you moving? And they'll ask me in November. It's not time. But the community, people outside of their church, are aware that we move. They're aware that we do these things, and they're like, "Well, you've been here a couple years. It's time to go, right?" No, we're here. We're not looking to go anywhere. Our hope is, we want to be here with you. And so for us as pastors to relearn how to join our communities, but also help our communities relearn how to welcome us in, and join us, right?
Welcome and let go, right?
Yeah. Oh,
that's
absolutely.
The thing about the itineracy, right? It's also how are we so self-aware that we know when we've done all that God wants us to do here. And so it's I really love the itinerancy system. I think, and I know it's really countercultural to where we're living today, and there's so many complications with families and kids. It was meant for a different era, but there is something about, it's hard to be self-aware and say my effectiveness here, I've peaked in my, and either I need to change who I am in my leadership so that I can take this church the next stage of its life, or it's time for me to go. It's tough to have that, and yet it's so required of a good leader. So that's part of what I hope the itinerancy system. I know for me, every this time of year, I knew I was up for a move. And so it helped me do some tremendous, intense scrutiny of my ministry. What bad habits have I created here, not just for myself, but in my leadership for others? What do I need to self-correct those? Where is God calling this community? Where is God calling me in this moment? And am I the right person? And I really love it. I really think, and I know it's complicated in the era we're living in.
It is, but the attention that at least our cabinet seems to pay, I answer more questions about my kids, where my kids are at in school, and how my wife is doing in the community. Because you all, I assume, you all know the ministry going on, right? But it's checking in on the kids, checking in on the family and those dynamics, which I appreciate the attention there. Because you're right, the system's set up for an era different than our own. And so to put the attention there, but also that self-reflective of where am I at? How are my ministries? How is my leadership playing in growing here? Or to have the real honest conversation, I've done everything that I can. God's called me here for this, and now it's time. And those are hard especially when we love where we are, right? It's hard.
Yeah, I always say, it's we have to divorce 150 people that we really love and we don't want to divorce. It is
Yeah.
painful. It is painful work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's when I've been a frequent itinerary in the last few years, and that's I kind of came to a place this last year where it's like, all right, you're in this for the long haul, and you're going to try to stay as long as you can. I mean, they're understanding when if the DS calls you, you can talk to the DS, but if the bishop calls you, it's a whole other conversation. And so being aware of that, but then also like you talked about being self-aware and what are some bad habits that you picked up along the way. And about halfway through this last year, I realized, there was some things that I wasn't doing that was very meaningful for me in my ministry, that I wasn't being myself. And so when my now teenage daughter, well, she'll be a teenager, but when she entered into middle school, I had to take her to school. And so one of the things I started doing was stopping at this coffee shop and spending about an hour and a half there before I'd have to be in the office. And so that has now led for me, I pretty much have my own seat there. Everybody knows that when I walk in, and it's developed this healthier routine for me to be in the community, and it's allowed me to open myself up in ways that I hadn't before, because I'd been so guarded, because I'd had frequent itinerates to the point where it's like, I don't want these people to know me because I don't want to have to let them go. And now I'm at a place where I want to get to know these people, and whatever happens. And I just want to be here and be present. And I have found that so much healthier than how I was living. And I think we need to do that. But the hard part is that that's not in the paperwork that we have to submit to you all, that we have to be honest about that and really look at ourselves and ask ourselves, are we doing the ministry that we were called to do? Or are we just, going through the motions, checking the boxes, making sure that the ESER reports are due on time and all those other things that we have to do? Or are we really attending to the ministry that we know that we were affirmed, especially by this point, I've been affirmed that this was my calling, and living into that a lot more versus not. And I think you nailed it on the head about being self-reflective on that. And I think providing more space for that, I think would be very healthy.
Well, and I want to talk to that, but there's something you said that was so powerful, that it was those constant moves that made you fearful of joining because you knew you'd have to leave. You said something like that. I didn't put words in your mouth, did I?
No.
But for us to be able to do that, even with the fear, knowing there will be pain, and modeling that to others, because life does have pain. And the church isn't going to prevent us from feeling pain, but it can offer us the community and the spiritual resources to not only live with pain, but move through pain and get to the other side of it. And I think that's one thing we can model and say, honestly, it hurts to leave you. But even Jesus had to leave. And so how do we help people? And not only that, we tell you're going to lose people you loved to death, to separation, to moves. And we can get to the other side of it, and we're going to be richer for it. But you also talked about, having the space for reflection. One of the things I'm amazed at is, at least in this conference when I came, was there was not a focus or a much of a permission giving in making sure people were taking renewal leave. I have found renewal leave in the course of my ministry to be one of the most important tools of my vocational health and growth, because it gave me, I talked earlier about, I know, as a leader, I create unhealthy habits, and by taking myself out of a place, it helps the laity grow in places I wasn't allowing them to grow. It helps me untangle myself and look critically at what I've been doing, but to ask the question, who does God want this community to be? And is God wanting me to do that? If I don't have the gifts for it, am I willing to learn the gifts and come back differently And that's just it. We get to utilize different parts of our leadership. We still come with our authentic self, but we're drawing from different parts of our leadership toolkit to help a congregation grow more fully into that to which God wants it to be.
That call to Sabbath and renewal, and your modeling of it has been life-giving to me and my family, to know that, hey, I have permission to leave and to go and be with them and fully be with them.
I love seeing you skiing recently.
Oh my gosh.
I loved it. I love seeing you do it.
Yeah. And it's been so much fun, and being able to go and do that, on a Monday, and not feel guilty about not being in the office on that day has been so life-giving for us. And truly, I mean, I was going to go to work that day, and my kid said, "Hey, can we go skiing?" Yeah, we'll go skiing. That's what we need to be doing. In 3 years ago, I'd have said no. I'd have gone into the office and sat and looked at my computer screen for 8 hours and then gone home.
Right.
And so, yeah, for our leadership as a whole to be modeling that in such a way, it's not only healthier for us, but it's healthy for our churches.
Yeah.
In my churches have seen that and gone, oh, you need this space. Go and be there. That's where you need to be.
Yeah.
Please go be with your kids. Go be a dad today. We'll call you if we need you. Amen. Yeah. And it's such a beautiful thing that we need, and we need more of, because our culture is it's not that. It is very go work yourself to death, and maybe when you turn 65 or 67 or 70 you can retire and then enjoy life. And that was an argument we had with my mother-in-law before she passed. She was forced to retire because of her illnesses and cancers and things, and didn't want to. And we talked to her over and over again for the last 10 years of travel now, go and do these things now. And it was always well, I'll do that when I retire. And she didn't get a chance to. Mm-hmm. And that was a stark realization for us to go, we got to do better. We got to do better.
Well, and just hearing you talk about what that day was like, the energy that rose in you.
Yeah.
You get to bring that into your ministry.
Absolutely.
Imagine if it wasn't there.
Right.
Well, and that's one of the fun things I've enjoyed for the last, almost month and a half now. I've been coaching. I coach Little League basketball for my daughter. And I have to, sometimes I have to remind myself that I'm a pastor, and there are things I probably shouldn't say to the referee that bubble up inside of me. And so I have to remind myself that. But I get into it, and it is a whole use of a different self that I can put out there that has been really nice. And I had several community members last year. I coached last year, and when it came up this time, you're going to coach, right? We love the way you worked with the kids. We love the way that you did things for the kids and stuff like that. And I wasn't going to, mostly because I wanted to spend time. I wanted to have that time to not have to worry about that sort of thing, because it is a whole different kind of stress. But I was like, I just don't know. And then my daughter kind of, she did a good job of guilting me and saying, I only want to play if you're coaching. And so I was like, well, I guess I will. And, we've had fun. And it's been life-giving, but man, I'm really looking forward to Saturday when the season's over and I can go on to being, I literally will go from being the soccer or the basketball coach to being a soccer dad in that afternoon, because we'll have a soccer game that afternoon. Wow. And I love getting to be with that community, because they're people that we've done life together in a way that I don't necessarily have in the church. Right. But it's also a witness for me, because we've had a couple games on Sunday, and I've said that the girls don't play soccer until they have to go to church before they play soccer. That's the rule. And so that's provided some fun conversations. But then, I took a Sunday off to go be with them, but we still went to church. We were in another community, and we went to church in that community, but then we came back and played soccer. And people are like, why are you doing it? It's like, because that's part of who we are. That's our faith. Like like it's part of what we do as followers of Jesus. And I've had some really good conversations with people, sitting on the sidelines and just being present. And it's just fun to be active in those kind of ways. And it's not something like, nobody from my personnel committee said, you will coach basketball or you will. And I think that when pastors find those healthy outlets to be involved in the community, whatever it is, it really does bring them life, and they can do so much more for the congregation than they ever really realize.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Well, and to bring the conversation full circle from where we started, it's a ministry of presence. So much of all of what we do in this call of going out and sharing the good news is being present with people. And the more and more that we can do that, and the less that we sit in our offices or our homes or, wherever we find ourselves expecting people to come to us, the better off we are. I mean, Jesus didn't stay put. None of the people in the Bible stayed put. Yeah. They just kept moving.
Yeah. That's right.
And so why, for whatever reason, in the last 50 years, it seems like it's been a ministry of staying put in,
excuse me.
No, you're fine. We've had the great example of leaders like you, Bishop, of saying, no, this is a ministry of presence. Go and be present, which is, there's a lot of freedom in that, and a lot of life and grace to give in our communities to bring us back to that. How do we be connected? How do we be present in the lives of the folks in our community? And expecting them to walk through our doors just isn't it.
No, and by being present, fully present to another's life, we seeing their life and the hurts and the injustices they disturb us enough to then inform our ministry about what truly is the liberating word of the gospel.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, Bishop, I love talking to you. I could do this every day.
Both of you, I've always enjoyed our conversations. It's been, I love the back and forth and the gifts, and love this ministry that you both do.
Well, thank you. We appreciate your time and your willingness to be with us. Just a couple of scruffy old guys,
So, Bishop, we thank you for your time, and looking forward to hopefully when we get to Minneapolis, you and I can connect again.
That'd be great.
And I would love to see you. And just thank you for the ministry that you provide for everyone. And it's not just your area, but for everyone. You are definitely a witness in this world, and we thank you for your time. And so, for the Bearded Theologians, I'm Matt Franks.
I'm Zach Bechtold. Thanks for checking us out. Thank you for listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share on all social media outlets. You can check out old episodes and more information at beardedtheologians.com. Thanks for checking us out.